Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show. And this time I'm flying solo for a very special episode as I'm finally done counting down all the Martin Scorsese films on Welcome to the Wasteland. I went through 31 of his films over the course of September to April, and I finally reached the end and decided that it'd be an interesting idea to actually go through and rank them from the bottom all the way to the top for me personally. Obviously, this is my list, so you might not agree with everything, but different films spoke to me in different ways. And we're going to get started at number 31, which is Boxcar Bertha. I feel like this film is his messiest and least inspired film, but here's the thing, I still liked it, which says a lot, doesn't it? All 31 of these films I at least liked, and this is a film that takes on a lot of religious imagery, a lot of intensity and violence, but it's just not nowhere near any of the vast majority of his films. My number 30 film, Rolling Thunder Review, which is, out of all of his music docs, my least favorite. And, you know, the Bob Dylan performances are great, but it's still a film that feels underwhelming and messy in many different ways. My number 29, Shine a Light, which is the Rolling Stones documentary film, which it's great to watch the Rolling Stones. It'd be cooler if it was like decades ago. But it's still an engaging and fun watch. Number 28, American Boy, A Profile, Stephen Prince. And this is an interesting short film that I watched where his friend Stephen Prince talks about all these life experiences, some of which were taken right out of this and put into other films like, you know, Pulp Fiction with the whole adrenaline. That came right out of this film, but it's an interesting conversation with Stephen Prince. Number 27, New York, New York. This is probably one of the films that works the least out of most of Scorsese's films, but it still has De Niro, Liza Minnelli, some great musical numbers towards the tail end of the film, and still has enough to really offer. Number 26, Bringing Out the Dead, starring Nicolas Cage in an unhinged, intense performance as an overnight paramedic, and there's a lot of interesting side characters, and deep down it is a dark and uncomfortable film. Number 25, we have Who's That Knocking at My Door, which is like the original OG Scorsese film. It has interesting courting in it, Harvey Keitel, and in general, I think it's a pretty interesting film. Number 24, Kundun. This one is one of his films that feels like it's playing the safest from like a filmmaking standpoint and a narrative standpoint, but I do still think it's a worthwhile experience watching the Dalai Lama leave Tibet and move on, or seeing our Dalai Lama's like will ever return to Tibet. So there's Kundun. Number 23, The Age of Innocence. And this period drama is impeccably created, really impressive. Daniel Day-Lewis and Winona Ryder are fantastic. This film is something that I do really appreciate. Number 22, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And this is one of the biggest surprises I have with Scorsese's film, is that he made this romance, this mother-son relationship. Having Ellen Bernstein and Chris Christopherson together really, really works in the film, and it still has enough of his flair. Number 21, Gangs in New York. His biggest, boldest, messiest film that I could think of, but there's so many things I love about it, like Daniel Day-Lewis, and other things I didn't, like Cameron Diaz. But in the end, I still really enjoy watching the film, which is why it's so high. Number 20, Cape Fear. Thriller all the way through. Max Cady, just Robert De Niro, just uncomfortable in so many ways. Number 19, George Harrison, Living in the Material World. Fantastic rock documentary, getting the recordings in there and being able to turn this into something more than just, hey, you got drafted to this show. But George Harrison's life is broken down in so many amazing ways, from his music to his religion to his life and everything in between. You have number 18, Shutter Island. Great thriller, crazy concept, crazy story. Leonardo DiCaprio carries so much of it. And this is the kind of film that I really wish that tons of people would go show some love. Number 17, After Hours. Darkly funny, zippy, paced, crazy people around every corner causing all kinds of mayhem and not being able to figure out the puzzle that's going to get us out, and being able to actually figure out where this night is going for this young man because it's so riotous and crazy. Number 16, Italian American. Another short film, but specifically an interview with Scorsese's parents, which hit me deeply and resonantly in terms of, hey, I stood on these floors, I saw her in her later years, and being able to see her actually, this letter, Italian American's a love letter to Scorsese and his heritage and his parents, and it's really moving. Number 15, The Irishman. His late in career, just epic, that takes the mobster genre in a completely different way and leaves it dark and bleak, but starring De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, and Keitel all together. Number 14, The Wolf of Wall Street. XSXSXS, Jordan Belfort, and the commentary of just greed, unrelenting greed, and Leo is absolutely infectious, and so is Jonah Hill. Number 13, Mean Streets. Probably the film that really solidified it for Scorsese in his filmmaking, those push camera movements, this actors with Keitel and De Niro coming to blows, and just an intensity about it. Number 12, Hugo. Absolutely love this film. It is endearing and beautiful, and George Méliès really deserves to get that kind of recognition. And this is just an ode and beautiful tribute to just film in general, with a wonderful young lead in Asa Butterfield and Chloe Grace Moretz. Number 11, The Aviator. Howard Hughes. This epic biopic, which is challenging in so many ways in what it's doing in terms of lighting and cinematography, and one of the most unnerving representations of mental illness, or in this case, really dealing with like washing hands and dealing with everything. It's just like, this is a sprawling film with an incredible cast, and it's just so worth it to watch. Number 10, we're in the top 10 now, Raging Bull. Jake LaMotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, the boxing, the drama, the intensity, the fall, it all works so well together. Number 9, The Last Temptation of Christ. This controversial film. This is a faith-based film. You don't need to have an organized religion to have that faith. And I feel like this is the kind of documentary that this film really opened my eyes to a lot of the different kinds of perspectives on Catholicism and Catholic guilt, and what could and could not have been done to honor, but also to challenge the ideologies and ideas that people in the industry had. Number 8, me personally, The Color of Money. I am amazingly just love The Hustler and The Color of Money. Paul Newman, Tom Cruise, these two sparring with each other, the music, the filmmaking. This is an impeccable sequel that never once feels like a sequel and bogged down in that. Number 7, Goodfellas, because it's iconic, it's amazing cast, it's funny, it's intense, it's unnerving, it's freaky, it's suspenseful. This has it all. And Ray Liotta and De Niro and Pesci and Sorvino all work incredibly. Number 6, Casino. Back to the mob movie, but this time it's an ode to Vegas with De Niro and Pesci and Sharon Stone and James Woods. This is a story of the battle for trust and to live out one's dream, and this idea of the world of gambling and this old school wonderful place, the casinos, and something that is sharp and incredibly paced for 3 hours. Number 5, Silence. Most powerful introspective film that I've ever watched of Scorsese's. This hit me so hard and made me so glad that I got to watch it. It was something that really resonates on a deep emotional and faith level. And this story really is about faith, and with incredible performance from Garfield, Driver, and Neeson. Number 4, The Last Waltz. Arguably the greatest concert film ever created. With the band, with the most amazing stacked lineup of guest stars. This is from wall to wall incredible peak music ever. We have number 4, The Departed. I promise I won't do it in a Boston accent. But so many great actors, such a great story and a setup. It's intense, it's funny, it's engaging, it's endlessly watchable, and leaves you on the edge of your seat all the way up to the final frame. My number 2, The King of Comedy. And this is something else. Robert De Niro as Rupert Pupkin is incredible. One of the most unique performances of his career. Him and Jerry Lee Lewis's banter is fantastic, whether it's imaginary or not. This is a dark comedy that really hits and has a lot to say about media and giving people acknowledgement and really helping out somebody who might be in a bad place. Finally, my number 1, Taxi Driver. This is this film that started it all, that exploded his career, and De Niro is iconic as possible with that mohawk, that intensity, and this is a film that resonates so deeply because it's so challenging and takes such a hard line look at things, and Taxi Driver is an experience you'll never be able to replicate. But those are my rankings of all of Scorsese films. I hope that you felt like you enjoyed this and got something out of it. I will be planning on doing this for Spielberg when it comes out. I had already done informally the Coen Brothers, but I could always go back and do Coen Brothers and Stanley Kubrick at some point as well. But this was definitely something that, this was such a wonderful, deep, and affecting journey for me through Scorsese's filmography as an Italian American, as a confirmed Roman Catholic. There's something deeply resonant about a lot of his work, and in a meaningful way really captures his spirit. And I loved this journey going through all of Scorsese's films, and now have such a great appreciation for him. But that's a wrap here on Wasteland Talks. I hope you continue to stop by and check in and see the new episodes right over on the Wasteland Reviewer YouTube channel. But thank you all, as always, for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.